Well, hello everybody and welcome to episode 43 of the Classic Rock Podcast. For those about to pod, we salute you. What have we got on this episode, Matthew? We have jam-packed show. We've got the latest news. We've got new rock on the block, some new albums to review. We've got My Year in Rock, which is 2008. We've got a continued Unsung Heroes. We've got Book Club of Rock. And finally, we have Hidden Gem Time. But here he is, that damn good podcaster who loves those damn crows, Mr. Matt Rogers. How are you, mate?
Yes, hello, Brian. Wow, that's a lot to pack in, isn't it? Wow, there's a lot going on.
I should write it down, really.
You should. You did very well. Very well. What take was that? 4 or 5? You did well. You did well. So how you doing? Are you okay?
I'm good. Yeah. It's February.
Me too.
Lots of...
Me too. Thanks for asking. It's February, yes. February. Go on.
Are you going to download now? 43 new bands announced this week.
Yeah, there's some good ones. I've nailed my colours to other masts this summer. I've got Steelhouse, Stone Dead, and the new Made of Stone festival in Maidstone, in Kent, and probably a couple of others as well. I can't think of. I'm going to a Rush festival. I'm going to a Rush. What do you call it? A Rush kind of
fest.
Rush fest. Like Comic Con, but for Rush nerds.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, it's in your part of the world, in Glasgow. It's not far from you, is it?
Exactly. Well, you've got, three days of Rush Fest, so you might, there'll be a...
Rush convention.
Runs, right, exactly.
A Rush convention. Sorry, go on, 3 days of Rush, yeah.
Yeah, you'll all be sitting around talking about moving pictures.
Yeah. What I'm really worried about is I'm a kind of a fair weather Rush fan. I'm not really in the depths of, my knowledge is fairly shallow.
Yes,
as it is with a lot of things. To be honest with you,
it's that classic period of Rush from 1979 to 81.
No, not really. No, I know all the stuff. But I'm hoping no one asks me about, lyrics and off of like track 17 of the 15th album and what was my favourite, I don't know, whatever it might be. So my, favourite guitar solo. I'm going to have to prepare some answers just in case I get cornered.
Can I suggest that you don't wear your For Those About to Pod t-shirt, Matthew, because we're not exactly putting it across that we're massive Rush fans, but we do like Rush.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, so what's moving on? However, what has caught your eye, Bri, in the news recently? The
big news, we probably bring the end of a chapter, Matthew, to a long running story since probably episode 1 or 2 of our podcast, way back, and it's sad news, inevitable. I feel Ozzy Osbourne's tour with Judas Priest cancelled. No more live shows because Ozzy, 1st of February, has announced that he is retiring from touring. Yeah. So best wishes to Ozzy. I think it was it was kind of, it felt it was going that way for a while. You're only a couple of months out. There wasn't any footage of Ozzy playing live or rehearsing, etc. So I think he's done the right thing. And good old Judas Priest have come out straight away and said, don't worry, fans, we'll be back in touch with you soon. So it'll be good to see the Priest able to play, at least London. You'll be happy with that.
Well, that's true. They're on the UK tour. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, however, of course, every cloud has a silver lining, Brian.
Yes.
And Ozzy has won a couple of Grammys, which is nice.
Very nice.
And he's won for his album Patient Number 9, best rock album. That's quite an accolade when you think about it. we reviewed that album, didn't we? In one of the podcasts last year, actually. Apparently beat the likes of Elvis Costello and the Black Keys to the honour, which is good. And also he won a Grammy for Best Metal Performance with that song that he did with Tony Iommi called Degradation Rules. So, so I'm sure he's very happy. Got a couple of Grammys to, sit on his mantelpiece.
Absolutely.
Which is nice. Yeah.
A nice way to go into retirement.
Yes, indeed. And in a way, it's probably quite nice that his last live performance, I would imagine, I could be wrong, but was the closing was with Tony as part of the closing of the Commonwealth Games in his hometown of Birmingham. So that's in a way that's sort of a nice bit of kind of symmetry, I suppose, beginning and ending his live career in his hometown. So as you say, we wish you well, Ozzy. Good career, great career, some great albums, and hopefully the albums will continue, of course.
And he might do a one-off.
You never know.
You never know.
Really?
You never know. And talking about one-offs, or maybe it might come in to other shows, but the erstwhile ex-guitarist of Bon Jovi, Mr. Richie Sambora, who I believe was a potato in The Masked Singer.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that I've seen it. I've only seen pictures. I haven't seen Richie perform on the show. But Richie's confirmed that he would like to rejoin Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting when he's just about to release a new solo album, which is produced with Bob Rock, which I'm sure will be good. But I just thought interesting timing for Richie wishing that he'd want to come back to Bon Jovi. Didn't know what your thoughts on that were.
Well, firstly, I think we talked about it a few weeks ago. I'm quite pleased with the idea because to a lot of people, he's kind of part of the classic lineup, as it were. So he'd be, as far as I'm concerned, be welcome back. But it's interesting the way he's kind of put it out there. I did read that he's in talks with Bon Jovi to rejoin. So he's obviously up for it, and there's obviously some discussions in the pipeline. Let's hope for Bon Jovi fans. Let's hope it plays out in a positive way, and he gets brought back into the fold. For no other reason, as we said, that he can provide backing vocals to John Bon Jovi, who was going through that sort of difficult period with his singing style in the course of the last couple of years. So, interesting times. Yeah, I'm not sure about that Mr. Potato Head or thing or whatever he was doing. I've never seen the Masked Singer.
No.
And I just wondered whether the judges actually knew who he was. It's you. This longish hair, American guy.
80s hard rock heartthrob.
However, I am looking forward to his new solo album because, as we said, I think it was a hidden gem quite early on. Stranger in This Town, I think it was. Fantastic solo performer, and if he's on the money, then he's still a fantastic performer and singer. So hopefully that plays out nicely.
Yeah. Anything in the news caught your eye?
A couple of. Well, we seem to be fixated on Black Sabbath and Ozzy at the moment, but it's going to be a Black Sabbath ballet.
I know.
It's interesting, isn't it? I'm resisting temptation, of course, to do the old Saudi Arabia, but it's going to be a ballet of our songs with Iron Man and War Pigs and people in tights and everything, tutus, dancing. So there could be 3 shows, I think, probably all in London in this coming autumn. I'm not sure I'll go. I mean, I like Black Sabbath, but I'm not sure I'll go to the ballet.
It did get me thinking of what other artists with their music could you use for ballet or opera?
Oh,
and do you know what came into my mind was Iron Maiden. Just with that, you know, the way Bruce can sing really high, and you could do like an opera based on Iron Maiden's music. It's very theatrical. But,
no, you're right. Yeah, it could work.
It could work. There you go, Bruce.
I'll tell you something else that caught my eye, Bri. Now, as we know, bands and musicians, artists are very happy to have merchandise in their name. We've talked about, obviously, perfume, and there's, you can get a Kiss coffin, and, all sorts of stuff. Of colouring books we've talked about, and vodka and Def Leppard gin and everything. Anyway, latest one I came across is Mick Jagger has announced he's going to release a line of limited edition harmonicas. Did you read about that?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure playing the harmonica is top of every kid's sort of list of musical objectives these days. Yeah, Mick's decided he's going to release some harmonicas, I guess, in different keys and maybe different colours and everything. I mean, you know about music, not very much, but you know about music.
Thanks.
So I guess they might be in different keys and everything. But just when you thought that everyone had kind of squeezed it dry in terms of the merch that you can release, it's come up with harmonicas. I'm not sure what's next. A range of Eddie Vedder ukuleles, or I don't know, David Coverdale maracas or something. I think it's a great idea. I love a pair of maracas. I love shaking my maracas. Yeah, interesting. We shall see.
There was something mentioned. Scott Gorham let it slip in an interview last week, because obviously Scott's out on tour with Black Star Riders at the moment. If you haven't got their album, please go and get it. It's brilliant. But Scott was being interviewed, and he's always asked the question about what's the status of Thin Lizzy? Are they going to be doing anything? And on the back of promoting the new Live and Dangerous box set, I think Scott had actually said that Thin Lizzy are actually working on some alcohol products, whether it's whiskey or gin. But I think Scott had said that they're going to be bringing out some products, and I'm wondering if, because Scott Gorham and Joe Elliott are really good friends. Obviously, Def Leppard last year brought out their 2 gins. I'm wondering if Thin Lizzy are going down the gin route. So, as you say, everybody just seems to be getting on the lucrative merch. What can you do? Jump on the Kiss bandwagon.
That's right. Surely Thin Lizzy would be releasing some whiskey in the jar.
Well, I think that would be the inevitable. That would be the obvious whiskey, but yeah, we'll see. I'm sure there'll be more news on that when Scott's ready. So Matt, it's kicking off on Planet Pink Floyd at the moment. Just when you think everything's all rosy in the garden, Roger Waters has a Twitter spat with David Gilmour's wife, and then drops the bombshell that he has re-recorded Dark Side of the Moon without any involvement with the rest of Pink Floyd. And I'm kind of going, why, Roger? It's one of the classic albums of all time. It's up there, and I'm going, why do you need to do this? And then, just to remind everybody, and he is probably the most prevalent social media member of Pink Floyd, as he's going out on his tour, he's reminding us all on the everything on the merchandise and on the websites that he is Roger Waters, the creator of the golden years of Pink Floyd. That sent social media into the split camps of, oh yes he is, oh no he isn't, David Gilmour's guitar playing. So I just wish that Pink Floyd would just retire gracefully, a bit like Ozzy, and just kind of go, just enjoy your legacy. But yeah, Roger's still stirring the pot.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I looked into that because when he was talking about the Dark Side of the Moon, and he was a prolific songwriter and wrote a lot of the lyrics, but a lot of this, all the songs on Dark Side were kind of written by either Nick Mason or Richard Wright and David Gilmour, or all four of them, or even Claire Torrey gets a credit on The Great Gig in the Sky. So it's a strange one, isn't it? He sort of laid claim to. I mean, I know the era. He was very kind of obviously instrumental, certainly beyond Dark Side of the Moon into Wish You Were Here and obviously The Wall. Yeah. But Dark Side of the Moon, he was involved, of course, but he wasn't the sole songwriter. But yeah, you're right. I mean, why would you want to re-record, a classic, which is a classic because of its sort of quirky, obviously classic songs, but the nuances and the quirkiness and the the weird recordings and Claire Torrey's voice and so on. It's just I don't know. I mean, I don't think you shouldn't mess with perfection, I don't think, and certainly not those classic songs and albums. But you're right, it's part of a kind of an ongoing feud that's been going for many, many years and will probably continue to carry on, continue between Messrs. Waters and Gilmour. And
then my final bit of news, which tickled me, was Twitter and Elon Musk.
Yeah.
For some reason, the algorithms of Twitter are not being very kind to the Kinks at the moment. It's their 60th anniversary. So the Kinks, we're getting into that period now. We're not talking about 30 years, 40 years. It's now Kinks have been going for 60 years. So I think they've got either a new album or a new compilation that they're putting out. Mm-hmm. So they've been busy on social media, and every time they put an advert out about the Kinks, the bots and the algorithm of Twitter are going, this is bad content. So Dave Davis has actually written he's written on Twitter to Elon Musk going, hello Elon, we are not robots, we are the Kinks. Please, can you remove all of the nasty content warnings that you're putting all of the Kinks stuff? So Twitter's blowing up and not being very nice to the poor old Kinks who are just trying to celebrate 60 years.
Yeah, very good, very good. So new rock on the block. Right. A few albums out at the moment.
Very much.
Covered all that we're going to talk about. Where would you like to start?
I would like to talk about a Scottish band called Anchor Lane. Yeah, we saw them at Steelhouse last year.
That's right, yeah. New album called Call This a Reality.
Yeah.
Good cover, actually. Really, really striking album cover, first and foremost. I like that.
Yeah. And I have to say, there was just the three of them on. They were missing a bass player when we saw them. It was like two guitars and a drummer.
That's right.
And listening to the album, it's got a real alternative indie rock feel to it. It's been recorded in Glasgow. The producer is Bruce Rental. And Bruce has produced bands like Twin Atlantic, so he's got a good pedigree of new up and coming alternative rock. But kicking off with Stutter, which was the first track off the album, I just have to say, going through it, fantastic for their second album. I know they stuttered a little bit. With the back end of COVID, they were supposed to go out on tour with Wayward Sons, etc. But I think this new album from them will set them up well. They're actually on tour at the moment. They're just finishing off their UK tour. They've got 2 shows left in Scotland. They've got a show in Edinburgh, and they've got a show in Aberdeen, which is coming up soon. So I'm going to try and go and see them. But I have to say, Anchor Lane's second album, Call This a Reality, really good, very well produced and well sang.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was, yes, you say, extremely well produced. And when I was listening to it, I thought people that like Royal Blood and Muse, there's kind of influences of Muse coming through, and also if you like you Blink 182 and Weezer and those sort of bands, you'll enjoy this. It's very contemporary. It's got a good feel to it, good songs as well.
Yes.
And you're right, we saw them last summer, and I think they were on, I don't know, 2:00 in the afternoon, one of those, early afternoon bands. And I thought they were okay then, but this album is really good and really worth a listen. Wish them well, Anchor Lane.
Absolutely.
They're not quite in the same mold as, there's a lot of kind of classic rock bands coming through and get kind of labeled broadly with that new wave of classic rock title.
Yeah.
But these guys are a bit more kind of contemporary in their sort of feel and their delivery and the production as well. So, we wish them well.
Absolutely.
And, go and check it out. Call This a Reality by the excellent Anchor Lane from Scotland.
Solid 8 out of 10 for me, Matthew.
Yes, absolutely, same. And I'd give the cover 10 out of 10.
Oh yeah. That's where you look at the cover and you go, it's a bit Muse. The way it's, but I'm not saying the copying Muse in any way, but it has that nice design to it, very contemporary.
Absolutely. I think you should get a patch of it, Brian. Put it on the back of your denim jacket.
on top of Meatloaf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or side by side, So we move to Wales's finest, Those Damn Crows. Their third album is out. Called Inhale, Exhale. And it's been a little while in the making, of course. And they've had a meteoric rise last few years. We've touched upon them a few times. They're out on their sold out headlining UK tour as we speak. They've risen up the ranks. Saw them at Download last year. We saw them at a couple of festivals last year as well. And really are going onwards and upwards. What did you make of this new album then, Brian? I'm intrigued by your
I knew you would be. I loved it.
Good.
Absolutely loved it. The standout track on this album for me is right in the middle of it. It's a track called Wake Up, Sleepwalker. It's an absolutely banging tune. It's just such a diverse album. We got a little bit of a sneak preview because they played some of it at Stone Dead, and you could tell where the prevalence of keyboards, etc. I thought the production was exemplary. If this album had come out earlier this year or at the back end of last year, they would have sat very nicely on the Alter Bridge tour. There was quite a lot of it just reminded me, the two bands, and it's not nice to compare bands, but the two bands that when I listened to the album it made me think of was Creed and Nickelback. And I would probably say the best way I could describe Those Damn Crows is the Nickelback that everybody will like. Just a great album, I have to say. Yeah, fantastic album. I was quite surprised from where the band have come to be able to produce a great piece of work. Great. I know you're a big fan of the band.
Yeah, same really. Yeah, I was very impressed. I think they've moved on nicely. It's a quality album. There was been kind of very kind of considered songwriters. And Shane Green was a really good singer. And, it's not sort of chugging guitars and, big drums. I mean, obviously there's a bit of that, but a lot of these songs are drum and bass driven. And you say there's a few triggers, there's a few sort of keyboards in there and so on, but quite subtly done. But the quality of songs is excellent. As you say, Wake Up Sleepwalk is a standout song. Man on Fire is really good. This Time I'm Ready. Top to Toe is great. Only 37 minutes long. That's my only possible kind of criticism. It's a bit like the old days. I mean, some of the best albums, like Van Halen's 1984 is only like 35 minutes long. So it's not uncommon because these days we're used to, an hour and 10 minutes or 56 minutes or something or whatever it might be in terms of sort of CD length. But I guess it might be, in a way, a sort of a recognition of the importance of vinyl now.
Yeah.
In that, you now have to go. You've gone back to that era where you have to fit 20 minutes on each side, give or take.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily kind of playing to the sort of CD market where you can, track 17 or 18 and, as I say, an hour and 10 minutes worth of music. And also it's good because they can then, they've probably got other songs that they've tucked away for the next album. So, no, I'm really, really, really impressed by it, and I'm going to see them on their tour next weekend. I'm really looking forward to that. So, I think a solid 9.5 out of 10.
It's a bit earlier in the year to give them maximums, Matt. I'd agree. It's a solid 9 for me. I was very impressed with them, and they're doing the. I know, as you say, they're out on tour at the moment doing headline shows, but they're also doing the in stores. I know they're actually they're going to be in Edinburgh doing an in store, and then they're playing in Glasgow in a few days' time. So they're putting the miles in, and hopefully, the album was released on the 17th of February. So I'm hoping that they get a good chart position because this album it deserves to be heard and get some. It'd be nice for them to get some playlist, a few of the radio stations, because there's some cracking tunes that are on this.
Yeah.
Good luck to them.
Absolutely. Indeed. Yeah. So Brian, last time in my year in rock, I gave you the year 2008.
You did indeed.
A mere, are you ready? I got to work this out now. A mere 15 years ago. Is that right? 15 years ago.
Yeah,
well, if you're listening,
it is.
But of course, if you're listening in 2208, 200 years ago. By the way, how's it going? What's the world like in 2208?
Exactly.
So 2008, Brian, what you got for us?
2008, a very interesting year, Matthew. Spotify started in 2008.
Is that right?
Yeah. 2008.
Where would you be? Where would we be without Spotify?
We wouldn't. Yeah, where would we be? We'd still be buying music, Matthew, because we're still old school. We do like to support our bands with. But where would we be?
It's not everyone's favourite medium of listening to music, is it? Of course.
Exactly. So yes, Spotify began in 2008. Very eclectic music in 2008. It was a little bit of a return to form for some classic bands, albums that were released in 2008, which I still listen to. Def Leppard released songs from the Sparkle Lounge, which was fantastic. Real good album. Whitesnake came back with Good to Be Bad, which I love. It's got Doug Aldridge is on it. I think Brian Tishy's playing drums. Maybe Chris Fraser's playing on drums as well too. But that was a real return to form for David in 2008. an artist who I admire a lot, brought out probably a career-spanning live album. John Mayer brought out a very, very good live album called Where the Light Is. Goes through acoustics, blues, his kind of pop rock stuff, which was great. It Bites came back without Francis Dunnery in 2008 and released the album The Tall Ships with John Mitchell on guitar and vocals. Glenn Hughes released great album. This is a fantastic name of an album, Matt. First Underground Nuclear Kitchen. So which is Funk. It's Glenn's funk album, which he called First Underground Nuclear Kitchen. And you think of that cover, you think of that album, and you're going, really, Glenn? But it's Glenn going back to more of the funk rock feel to his albums. Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers, who he's good friends with, played drums in the whole album. J.J. Marsh, who had been with Glenn pretty much through the 90s and 2000s. So it's for me, and I'm a Glenn fan, it's probably one of Glenn's better albums in the noughties. Craves, the lead off track. Please put that on the playlist, Matt. So that was good. And the final album for me, Matt, which was finally released in 2008, which was the Chinese Democracy.
Yeah, indeed.
And to be fair, an album which I think at the time, what would the press junket have said, didn't meet record industry standards or expectations. I have to say, history is a lot more. Hopefully, history will be a little bit more kinder to the album, because there are some great tunes on Chinese Democracy. I think we'd waited so long. You know, the title for the album was leaked in 1999.
Wow.
So Chinese Democracy was probably one of the big albums that was going to be released in 2008, and it sort of like flopped. So many artists that were involved in it, you know, Buckethead, Ron Bumblefoot. I think it was basic guitarists with funny names that were in it.
So it would appear.
Yeah. So there's a little smorgasbord of albums in 2008, Matt. What about you?
You had a couple of those as well, actually. Yeah, I remember when Chinese Democracy came out. You're right. Was it 16 years in the making or something?
Yeah.
I thought you're right. I mean, I thought it was okay. I mean, there's some pretty good songs on it. You're right. I mean, There Was a Time is okay. The title track, Chinese Democracy, is okay. I mean, for those who wanted Appetite for Destruction, you were going to be sorely disappointed. But you know, it was a good piece of work. Metallica brought out Death Magnetic, which after their sort of difficult period in the early 2000s, when Jason Newsted left and they had to bring in a sort of wellness coach, and you know, there's some kind of monster really, you know, exposed the inner workings of the band. Death Magnetic was pretty good. Cyanide is the sort of standout song, killer riff on that song. And also The Day That Never Comes, a classic Metallica song titles, All Nightmare Long, My Apocalypse. I mean, these are not love songs,
no,
particularly. But, well, worth checking out. It's a really good album, and if you want a sort of, you know, a good old slice of heavy metal, then this is the album for you. Blackstone Cherry, who I saw recently, actually, with The Darkness. Their album, Folklore and Superstition, came out in 2008, which is well worth checking out. It's a kind of a raw album compared to their sort of production quality these days. Their second album, and there's some good stuff on it. Blind Man is, I think, still part of their set, and what Things My Father Said, of course, is certainly very much part of their set, and will continue to be. The story of Chris Robertson's dad's passing. Judas Priest brought out the epic concept album that was Nostradamus. Of course, needless to say, based on the writings of Nostradamus. If you want to get the deluxe edition, it weighs in at 1 hour and 43 minutes and features songs such as The Future of Mankind, Visions, Shadows in the Flame. If you're willing to persevere with it, it's actually a pretty good listen. But it is what it is. It's very much a reflection of the kind of the predictions of Nostradamus. And then finally, one of the biggest album of the year, up alongside Chinese Democracy, was Black Ice by AC/DC.
That's very true, yes.
And that really was a return to form. With Rock and Roll Train, Big Jack, Anything Goes, War Machine, She Likes Rock and Roll, and indeed the title track itself, Black Ice. I think a lot of us saw that tour the next year, on their UK tour of London. And it's a good album, right?
Yeah. No, I can't believe I left off. I didn't include Black Ice.
You had to leave me something, didn't you? Scraps. You had to leave me the Scraps.
Scraps are probably the biggest selling rock album of 2008.
Absolutely. So plenty of songs to go on the playlist from that album. Gigs wise, did you go to any gigs that year?
It was interesting. You mentioned Justin Hawkins from The Darkness, because in 2008 I saw Justin with his what can be best described as his proto Steel Panther band that was called Hot Leg.
Yeah.
And I saw Hot Leg and Hot Leg were supporting Extreme. So Extreme came back with a new album in 2008. I got to see Extreme, and they were just fantastic. Hardly anybody came to the O2 in Glasgow. There was very few of us there to see them, and they put it. Yeah, it was maybe it was like a Tuesday night on a February Tuesday night. It wasn't the big comeback I would have expected for Extreme, but they were fantastic. Like, first time I'd seen them, and they were just great. Nuno and Gary, they were just great. I got to see John Mayer for the first time. I went down to see John Mayer in Manchester at the Academy, and John Mayer is somebody who's selling out enormous domes and big concert halls in America. And I saw him in Manchester Academy room. I think it might have been room 1. And there was maybe less than if you maybe got 1,000 people in there, 1,500 people in there, and it was crammed to the gills, Matt. So I got to see John in Manchester. 3 Doors Down, which a band that doesn't come across to the UK that much. They would have been in the late 90s, early 2000s in that Nickelback, Creed, Alter Bridge sort of feel. Really, really good band. I saw them for the first time. But the 2 standout gigs for me in 2008, and you were at both of them, was Hammersmith Odeon when we went to see the Scorpions.
Yep.
And this was the Scorpions, but with Michael Schenker guesting with them and Uli John Roth. So you had, and it was, we're in the Hammersmith Odeon, and the Scorps have I've never seen the Scorpions do a bad show. To see him in Hammersmith, and Michael was in good form, and he was playing, they brought him on to do Love Drive and Holiday, Coast to Coast. And then they went back, and they were playing material like Bad Boys Running Wild and, Blackout and Big City Nights, all that kind of stuff. And then Uli John Roth comes on with his big, massive guitar. And yeah, and I always remember the end, a Rocky Like a Hurricane with Michael Schenker on additional guitar. So it was just a wild night of Scorpions in London. I always remember that. Probably my favourite gig in the Hammersmith Odeon that I've seen. They were just phenomenal. Yeah. Do you remember that night?
I do remember it well, actually. Yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah,
good fun. And you and I went to see Iron Maiden at Twickenham. We talked about this gig actually when we were so high up in the nosebleeds that we were almost outside of the stadium. I remember you turned to me and said they look like ants down on the stage. I said, "Brian, they are ants. They haven't come on yet." Gigs I went to. Triple bill. Now, I think this is one of the early kind of triple bills. And Def Leppard, Whitesnake, and Blackstone Cherry at Wembley Arena. I think Blackstone Cherry were on about 6:15. We had to get there very early to see them, but they were well worth it. You mentioned Alter Bridge, and you mentioned Extreme, and as you say, Hot Leg supported both of those bands on tours. I think I saw them about 2 weeks apart, and it's funny. This is the first time I've ever seen this at Brixton, supporting Alter Bridge. Hot Leg were booed. I mean, normally you have a bit of indifference. Certainly in London, it's a notoriously difficult audience to please, as it were, but they were booed. I think stuff was thrown at them, and strangely, the rest of that tour, the Hot Leg support was cancelled due to Justin Hawkins having the throat problems. But then when they supported Extreme, it was like they were the prodigal sons returned, and it was still in London at the Forum in Kentish Town. So strange mixture. They did one album called Red Light Fever and had a fantastic song on it. If I can find it, I'll put it on the playlist. A song called Chickens. Yeah. Check it out. Also gigs for me. I went to see Status Quo in Thetford Forest, which is a bit surreal. So Thetford Forest, just outside of my hometown, they've got this kind of big clearing where they have various bands on it. Some quite sort of big bands have played there over the years, and saw Thetford Forest. Hilarious to my friend Kelvin, who came with me, because I hopped over a muddy puddle, slipped, and pretty much kind of did myself a serious injury. And he thought it was hilarious, of course.
No, of course not.
So it was a good year. Good year for good year for gigs. Good year for albums too. Yeah. So, Brian, next time, there's no more years. We've done them all. My year in rock. It's finished. It's quite sad, really. That was it. Done. No more. We'll have to think of something else.
We will do.
We will.
We have already.
We've got the A to Z of rock.
We have.
Coming soon. That'll keep us busy for 26 episodes. At least. So watch this space for the A to Z of rock. Which brings us to Book Club of Rock.
My favourite part of the show.
These features. It's just, they come in thick and fast.
It is.
I'll make this brief. So I think I touched upon it as a potential Christmas present for everyone, just before Christmas, strangely enough. And that is Biblical by Rob Halford, his second book. In fact, we talked about his first book, Confess.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, whenever it came out.
You bought it from me.
Did I?
You did.
Is it called Confess or Confession? I can't remember now. Anyway, Biblical is well worth a read, and it's quite tongue in cheek. Basically, Rob sort of dissects the rock business from top to bottom, and gives his sort of view on it, and it's quite honest, and as you might expect, if you read Confession or Confess, whatever it was called,
it's called Confess.
Confess, I thought so. Then you'll know, he's very happy to I'm going to say expose himself, but probably the wrong analogy.
Reveal himself.
Reveal himself. No, it's even worse. Anyway, Biblical is a really good read. As I say, dissects the rock business, tongue in cheek, gives you his view of the world as well as obviously a global rock star. And if you ever meet Rob, just ask him nicely for a selfie, because he doesn't like it if you don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well worth a read. Biblical by Rob Halford.
Excellent.
Your turn next, Bri. This is to urge you to read a book.
Okay.
As I said, I'm pretty prolific. I read 2 or 3 books a year, but I'm up in the ante, Bri.
Are you going to help
over to you? You got 3 weeks to read something.
Goodness.
And it's not a colouring book.
Okay. So, Matt, one of our new features for 2023, which I actually thought was just the one time we would discuss it, but it entered into the whole, gosh, we could talk more about other unsung heroes, because we had quite a long list of notable additions that we could have talked about.
That's right. And people seem to like it as well. Our 12 listeners.
Yeah.
Is it 12 or 14?
I think we're at 14.
14. Our 14 listeners, they quite liked it. And 1 or 2 ideas come in. So, but anyway, back to you. Who's your unsung hero for this time, Bri?
I'm gonna ease into this, and I'm gonna give you a couple of ideas to see if you can guess who my unsung.
Yes.
So.
I'm looking forward to this.
This musician played on a number of classic albums.
Right.
Long Live Rock and Roll by Rainbow. The Eternal Idol by Black Sabbath.
Right.
Diary of a Madman by Ozzy Osbourne. Have you got it yet?
I have. Have you met him at the back of the Brixton Academy by any chance?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's not Don Airy then?
It's not Don Airy. Oh, I'll keep going then. I'll keep going. Played in the latter part of his career quite a lot with Gary Moore.
Right.
And he was the person who suggested to Gary that he do a blues album.
Okay. I feel I should know this. But put me out and
I'll put you out of your
misery.
The gentleman that I am putting down as my unsung hero is Mr. Robert John Daisley.
Okay.
So I'm putting Bob Daisley down. Bob Daisley, bass player extraordinaire, and quite a serious songwriter as well too. He played with Uriah Heep. He got his big break really with playing with Rainbow on the Long Live Rock and Roll album. Stayed for a couple of years and then was obviously showing the ever revolving door of Rainbow. Replaced by Roger Glover in 1979. He was part of the original Blizzard of Oz band with Lee Kerslake and Bob with Randy Rhoads and Ozzy. Interestingly, or infamously, Bob wrote and contributed to pretty much all of Ozzy's albums, all the way from Blizzard of Oz up to No More Tears. So he went all the whole way through, and he wrote, played bass, wrote a lot of the lyrics. He probably did the Geezer Butler role in Sabbath, where Geezer's really the lyricist. And during this time, he was suing Don Arden for performance rights. He obviously infamously took Sharon to court as well too, because of performance credits and royalties and albums. But he continued to work with Ozzy. Worked prolifically with Gary Moore after 1991 when he ended his association with Ozzy. And in his latter days, and his last album that he put together was a lovely tribute album to Gary Moore, and he got quite a lot of And I would credit him with the fact that he got John Sykes into a studio and got John recording some guitar for that tribute album. So my unsung hero for this episode is Bob Daisley, amazing bass player. And we'll maybe pick a few select tracks from Bob's career to just highlight who he's done. So there's my unsung hero, Bob Daisley.
Very good. Wow. You should let me go first, actually. That's a good one. I was watching The Darkness a couple of weeks ago, and I thought Dan Hawkins, rhythm and lead guitarist of The Darkness. I think since the day they first sort of broke through, will always be seen wearing a Thin Lizzy t-shirt. So I knew you'd be a fan, right? But yeah, he's kind of obviously in the shadow, not so much in the shadow. I mean, he's clearly not quite as extravagant and extroverted as his brother Justin, but he's a good, solid musician all the same. Began as a session musician and worked with, for example, Natalie Imbruglia.
Really, I never knew that.
Which must have been nice, of course, and has been a mainstay of The Darkness. And when they split up in 2006, he formed a band called the Stone Gods.
They're really good. I like the Stone Gods. Yeah.
I saw, I think, one note of their gig at Brighton when they were supporting Velvet Revolver in probably about 2007 or 8. So I arrived late, having been in the bar or something like that. Well worth. I think well worth the accolade of an unsung hero, because, as I say, I'm not quite sure he gets his just rewards and recognition as a key member of the Darkness, and indeed, as you say, Stone Gods. So there you go, Dan Hawkins. There you go. That's Unsung Heroes for this time, which brings us to
Hidden Gem Time.
Thank you, Lola, as always. So we got for us young Brian.
Just to keep the connection with young Bob Daisley.
Okay.
I am going to pick a project with Bob Daisley, with your favourite album singer of 2022, Mr. Joe Lynn Turner.
Okay, yep.
So Bob put together a band in 1993. You could call it, Matt, supergroup.
What now? Sorry.
A supergroup. Let me tell you. Let me tell you the members, and then you can decide whether it meets our strict criteria of supergroup. So on vocals, Joe Lynn Turner. On the bass guitar, Mr. Bob Daisley. On the drums, Carmine Appice.
Yep.
Okay. And on the guitars, Mr. Jeff Watson from Night Ranger.
Very good. Yes, I think that class is qualifies as a supergroup.
There you go.
Indeed.
So they were monikered and named Mother's Army. Mother's Army brought out 3 albums between 1993 to 1998. Never played a live show. The first 2 albums, bit projecty. But the third album, which is an album called Fire on the Moon, that's when the band were writing together. So Joe Lynn Turner had a lot more input into the lyrics and the melodies. It felt more like a band third album, which is really good. Check out, please put on the playlist, Matt, track off the third album, which is called Common Ground. Listen to that. It's psychedelic. Joe Lynn Turner's, it's mid-90s. He's singing fantastically. So my hidden gem from the pen of Mr. Bob Daisley and the band that never really saw the light of day, Mother's Army, is my hidden gem.
Very good.
What about you?
Very good. Well, I've got a strange one actually for episode 43.
Okay.
And you might think, how does this fit into a rock podcast? Well, it does, and I'll explain why. So my hidden gem for this episode is a film, a recent, about 2023 release. So it's bang up to date.
Okay.
Released on Netflix, and it's Bank of Dave. Now, Bank of Dave, it's brilliant. It's a really good film. It follows it's based on the real life experiences of a guy called Dave Fishwick, who lives in Burnley, a town in the northwest of England, for our non-English, non-British listeners. And he sets up essentially a kind of community bank where he lends to local businesses and does it in a very kind of philanthropic, gregarious way. And the reason that I've kind of brought it to everyone's attention, firstly, it's a very good film. Secondly, he likes karaoke, does Dave, and he can't resist singing rock songs at karaoke, which is something that, of course, you and I enjoy doing, Brian. And thirdly, Def Leppard are in it for some reason. He puts together a concert, and he gets, as you do, Def Leppard to headline. And it's great, and they're into it. The guys, the Def Leppard guys. So for that reason alone, and the fact it's a really good film, and it'll make you feel good if you watch it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna suggest my hidden gem for this episode is Bank of Dave, 2023 film that you can find on Netflix. There you go.
Fabulous.
Have you seen it, Brian?
I have seen it. It is absolutely brilliant, and it's got Sir Vivian of Campbell in it, and we've not mentioned
Indeed.
Vivian for a while.
No, Lord Vivian of Campbell.
Lord Vivian of Campbell.
Yeah, so check it out.
It's a very good film. I agree with you. Really, really good film. So, Matt, that's episode 43. I've just checked the list. We've done it all. Got through it all.
Gee, there's a lot. We packed a lot in there, didn't we?
We did indeed. No mistakes either. No editing.
None whatsoever.
Totally live.
Indeed. From start to finish. No overdubs or edits or anything. Yes, that's good. That's good. Thanks for listening, everyone. Hello, Georgia, by the way. My daughter Georgia asked me to give her a mention, so hi, Georgia.
Hi, Georgia.
Yeah, and thanks for listening. Pass the word around. Tell all your friends. In fact, everyone tell all your friends. If you all tell 10 friends and they tell 10 friends, and you know, before you know it, we'll be
millionaires.
We'll be millionaires, Rodney. We're not in it for the money, Brian. Come on, how many times have I got to tell you?
Okay.
There's no million. We haven't got any budget. We haven't got any money. We haven't got anything, really.
We've got mugs.
We've got mugs, actually, yeah. Mugs and a couple of T-shirts. And I've got another little treat, which we'll talk about next time.
Okay.
But for now, that's it. We're on all social media and everything, aren't we, Brian? You wanted to mention that.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We've got a YouTube channel. Send us a message on Facebook. Matt will reply. I'm usually too busy trying to learn the guitar because I need to get better.
Yeah, you should really keep practicing, Brian. How's that A minor chord coming on? Are you doing all right with that?
I'm doing okay with it. It's all right.
Yeah, it's a tough one, though, isn't it?
It is. It's tough. Yeah. Anyway,
right. Thanks for listening.
Yes.
Take care of yourselves.
Rock
Be good
on
to each other. Let's see you next time. For those about Poppy Salute, who is a Maley Rogers or Rogers Maley production? One of those.
Okay.
Or both.